Welcome to the Hoops&Huddle podcast. I am Malika, joined by Brandon, who is the rubric who reviews the business side of sports. And today we are speaking with Rel Myers, who is a content creator for the New Orleans Pelicans fans worldwide. She loves her Pelicans, and we had to have her on to talk about New Orleans because every year I think, okay, this is going to be the year they make some noise, and then you have an injury. And we're going to get into the news soon, but I wanted you to, introduce yourself to the people and say hi and, and where they can find you real quick.
Thanks for having me. My name is Rel Myers. I'm a content creator with a passion for the NBA. But like Malika said, I love my Pelicans. But you can find me on Twitter and TikTok and YouTube at Rel Myers, RelMyers.
Cool. And we'll have a link to the Twitter profile when we post this on Twitter, so you'll be able to find her that way. So let's get right into it. Trey Murphy. That news today. I mean, I feel like New Orleans, you opening up the season and boom, you may have a healthy Zion. He's looking healthy, but then you hear the Trey Murphy news. How do you feel about it? Like, what are your thoughts?
It hurts. I've been rooting for Trey harder than most other guys on the roster, and I've grown to, I've grown a bond with his family, his mom and dad. I talk to them, whenever I see them, and it just sucks. And Trey doesn't get hurt. He's never had any sort of injury to where he's missed a lot of time. He's had to have surgery, so this is like his first surgery, I'm pretty sure. So that news is a tough blow because we're always worried about Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram and their injury history, but now we got guys who normally aren't hurt getting hurt and needing, minor surgeries and stuff. So that news was a tough blow. Even when they said that he hurt his knee and we didn't know what it was going to be, it was a tough blow. So some people are a little bit relieved with it only being like a 10 to 12 week recovery thing, but
a
lot of us have like injury PTSD because when guys, you give us that timeline and they never come back at that timeline, and you say you're going to ramp them up and we'll check back in 2 weeks, over and over and over again. Sometimes the guy just ends up never playing. So everybody's nervous. So that news was rough.
Yeah, torn left meniscus was the diagnosis, 10, 12 weeks. But yeah, as we look at your roster in general with this news, he's going to be back. He should be back by middle November, probably around there.
Yeah, right? He should miss maybe like 15, 20 games, something like that. And so now people are just like, okay, well, let's make sure. Like, we should be okay if CJ, BI, and Zion are healthy for those 15, 20 games. Last year, it only took 2.5 games for our top two players to get hurt. So we're just at the mercy of the basketball gods at this point.
The bad part about it, I was just wondering, man, that could just impact their mid-season tournament because that's that first stretch and get some momentum. I know it's not the championship, but any positive, any positive growth for the Pelicans this year in any aspect is good.
And Trey's a huge piece for us. He could be that 6-man role, and he didn't get to play. A lot of people didn't get to play the role they should have last year because somebody's always hurt, and so a lot of fans. And I'm sure we could probably get, I might be getting ahead of myself and we can get into this down the road, but I don't know if y'all know, a lot of Pelicans fans are like really upset with CJ McCollum, but he came here to be the third option. He's gotten to do that literally 10 times in a year and a half. So, like, I see your face. You're like, what? Like that? Yeah, there's some fans, and it's mostly Brandon Ingram's fans, to be honest, that really have an issue with CJ. But the guy shows up and he does his job, and he's available more than the others. So
he's probably the best leader they have on that squad. Like, hands down, like, not even close.
Yeah.
They're not improving. I mean, Brandon Ingram and Zion have been injured, so he had to play more minutes, and he was brought there to play a particular role. He's playing a role higher than intended. That's not his fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but at least he's stepping up. He's trying to step up. But hopefully this year, Zion, Brandon Ingram seems to be finding his flow with USA basketball. But let's get into, because it started off a little rocky. But let's talk about your roster in general for the Pelicans. How are you feeling about, your roster right now? You guys are about 14 million or so below the super apron, but over the salary cap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we're like just barely over it.
Yeah, you're barely over it, but you're about 14 million under the super apron at least. So, tell me about, let's talk to us about how you feeling about your roster. And Zion, do you think how you feel about Zion?
I'm a Zion fan. And, a lot of people are, they've run out of patience. For me, I think I'm mostly looking at, are Brandon Ingram and Zion going to be healthy this year? If we know about a trade deadline that they're like missing a ton of time, at that point is when I'm officially like, all right, we got to do something. Somebody got to go, because you can't have your top two people be the most injury prone people on the team. Like, you're never going to get anywhere. You can't. I see people say a lot, you can't build on hope. It's very, very true. Yeah, you can't just keep hoping these guys are going to be healthy and get us to the promised land. So overall, I'm really happy with the roster construction. We picked up Cody Zeller this offseason, and people were upset about that. But what they have to understand is we just brought in James Borrego.
Cody would play his role. His role, stay in his lane. Good in his role.
And that's the thing. People are like, we gave up on Jackson Hayes, but like Jackson Hayes can't set a screen. I bet you Cody Zeller can. And he also has that familiar with James Borrego, who they just brought in because he played under him in Charlotte. So our starting five, I'm very happy with. A lot of fans are not happy with Jonas Valanciunas. I don't care. That's my center. He does what's asked of him, but I don't think that I think they've shied away from using him properly. Like, if you don't feed him the ball, what do you want him to do? If they're not going to him in the post, like he can stretch for a little bit. He can shoot the three. Like, there's several things where he's made 7 3-pointers. You just keep giving him the ball, he gonna keep shooting and he gonna make them. Then he has these off nights, and that's what people are focusing on. They're focusing on the off nights. But
I mean, everybody has off nights. Even the top elite players have off nights. So I think he plays his role pretty decent. He as a center, you have but the top centers were battling for the MVP this year. Everybody's not going to be Joker and Embiid. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So Jonas, I was literally just watching some highlights earlier. There was a game in December where they played the Bucks. Jonas had 37 points, 18 rebounds. He was like 14 for 24 from the floor and 7 for 10 from 3. He was absolutely cooking Brook Lopez and Giannis. And so I'm like, hey, what more do you want? So people always want things to be sexy. What he does is not always going to be sexy, but he does what's asked of him. But there's a lot of speculation on whether Willie Green is really like happy with him or not. Typically, if Larry Nance Jr. is healthy, he's going to come off the bench and he's going to play backup 5, but a small ball 5. So it's another reason why we got rid of Jackson Hayes, I think, because we really need him or Billy Aaron Gomez. So rest of the roster, the starting 5, I'm really happy with the starting 5. A lot of people think that Trey Murphy should have been a starter this season. I didn't think he was going to be. I think that starting 5 was going to be the same as it was on opening night last year, which would be C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, and Zion Williamson. So I think that's what they are going with again this year. Obviously, Trey wouldn't be starting because he got hurt. So, and then our 6th man coming off the bench it's either going to be Larry Nance will come off the bench and relieve JV early, or maybe Dyson Daniels actually take CJ out first. So there's a lot of options, and I trust our coaching staff. Our main issue year after year is just health and 3-point shooting, actually.
So you brought up an interesting point, something I haven't heard Pelicans fans mention, the media does. If Zion isn't healthy by the trade deadline and he's not there, and it looks like, we're not going to have this guy most of the season, he gets hurt again, whatever. Is that a reset moment for the Pelicans? Because everything they have is all contingent upon the availability of Zion. All the pieces you mentioned are great, awesome, dope.
Yeah.
Not championship pieces to say, about to go be top 3 in the West. So, what does this mean? And could they even do a deal? Because this guy just signed his extension, right?
Right. He did. So he's getting into the first year with his extension that also has all these different stipulations around, weight clauses and whatever else. So, I'm not even sure, when they'd be able to move him as far as the contracts go. But I want to say in the offseason when there was a lot of speculation about us, maybe moving up to like draft Scoot or something like that, and what the package looked like and things like that. Personally, I would be more willing to let go of Brandon Ingram before Zion Williamson. Only because I know I know it sounds crazy. I know we got to the playoffs that year that Zion didn't play at all, and we had traded for CJ, and we got to the playoffs without him. But I just feel like long term, we've seen if Brandon is out and Zion's in, we can win with Zion. I don't know how much we can win without Zion, if that makes sense. I know a lot of people just like, no, get rid of it. But like, BI is a very, very, very good player, drafted second in his class.
He's very good when he's healthy and isolation and about
I don't think yeah. And I don't want to like this BI. I want this the BI stands, whatever have you. Yeah. BI is an excellent player. I don't think he's a generational player, and Zion is.
Okay. I really like Herb Jones. I mean, I'm a Herb Jones fan. He was one of those players I was waiting to see, but he signed his extension. You guys have him locked in through all the way up to 2026 season. He's an unrestricted free agent that season. So you have him locked in. You have Zion locked in. You have CJ for 2 more years. And then he's an unrestricted free agent. But this is the last season for Jonas Valanciunas. When you look at your roster and your bench, like I like Jose Alvarado as well. When you look at your roster and your bench, where do you see you guys in terms of if you guys are healthy reasonably, where do you see you guys ranking in the West? Do you think what seeding range do you see you guys hitting in the playoffs?
Fully healthy, I think top 4. And last year I said top 4, and we ended up first in the West for like a little while. And then that's when Brandon Ingram was missing for a month.
You said top 4.
Top 4 in the West.
And I think top 3 if Zion is healthy. Yeah. I mean, you're a guy that's putting up 25 and 10, 25 and
crazy efficiency.
Wow.
That's if Zion is healthy. That's Zion is healthy. If Zion's not healthy, like I don't even wonder if you can make the play-in.
Yeah, we were on pace for like 50. We were on pace for like 50 wins. We got hurt. It was probably like 26-17, something like that. He got hurt January 2nd, and it was all downhill from there. They went on a 10-game losing streak. And BI was out that whole time. For a majority of those 10 games we lost, BI was out for at least 8 of them. I hope I'm remembering it correctly, but he was out for the majority of those games. But we need those guys healthy. But healthy, we was on top. And even missing one of our star players, we were still on top. So, and we saw how Denver was, at the top of the standings all season long. And we was right there with them, So, and we beat them a couple times this past season, I want to say, too. So, yeah, it's just a health thing, man. I don't know if the practice facility or the arena is built on some ancient burial grounds and someone's upset about something. But we got a curse on us.
I mean, one of the things I'll say is, if there's one thing you could do with your roster to strengthen it before the trade deadline, what would that be if your team is reasonably healthy? Like, what would that move be if you can make one move to strengthen your roster? Like, what trade would you want to see? What signing would you want to see?
I haven't really thought in like specifics, but I think in the change would have to be in our starting lineup, and the only person I'd be willing to let go in our starting lineup would be Jonas Valanciunas. As much as I love him in his game, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of it doesn't seem like he's really part of like what they want to do. Like I was saying earlier with Larry Nance Jr. coming off the bench and being the backup small ball 5, it just seems like they want to go more in that direction. So I don't know that we need such a traditional back to the basket center. Now, if we can get a lot of people, I'm not really on board with it, but if we did get him, I would cheer for him. A lot of people want Miles Turner. I have no idea why, but I think he's one of those guys that they don't watch him. But when he plays us, he cooks us. So they think he's like amazing. And I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I'm not jumping at the opportunity to have Miles Turner be my center. So I think it would have to be that, and the rest of the roster, is fine. I mean, the guys at the end of the bench, like, they're not going to play anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But as far as our rotation goes, I think our rotation is solid, and that's the one that I would probably want to upgrade is that center.
Oh. What do you think about, now that we have an idea that you see you guys reasonably healthy as a top 4 team, do you think you guys have the right coaching staff for that top 4 team? Your head coach and assistants?
I think Willie Green is their guy. And I think, so they just got rid of Teresa Witherspoon.
Yeah.
And there's speculation around that, of course. Because that was Zion's homegirl, that was like his bigger sister.
They wanted to shake it up. I get it.
Yeah. Some people think that they removed her to like kind of remove that like last safety net with him. But when it comes down to it, Willie Green inherited her from somebody else's staff. Like she had been there with Stan Van Gundy. She had been there before with Alvin Gentry too. She'd been there a couple years before Willie got there. And so I think, he got to pick his own people. You can't keep everybody all the time. So that really was tough. That kind of shook up the fan base a little bit. Like, wow, man, it really seemed like she connected with a lot of the guys. And Kyra Lewis Jr., I don't know if you ever heard this story, but Teresa Witherspoon used to coach his older sister or something like that. And when he was little, he would tell her, when I grow up, I want you to coach me, And so he actually got drafted by the Pelicans, and she was able to coach him. But, she's got these long-standing relationships with these guys, but they're just like, nah, you gotta go. So that really hurt. But as far as the rest of the staff goes, I think Fred Vinson is extremely invaluable, or extremely valuable to the organization. And recently he was getting some accolades from Lonzo Ball, and Lonzo was talking about how he fixed his shooting. That was him and Fred in the gym all the time. So Fred really helped him with that. And there's guys on our roster now like Dyson Daniels and Herb Jones who are great defensively, but they can work on their shooting, and that's what Fred is there for. And we have seen some improvement with Herb. And with Dyson, it was only one season, so we'll see how he does next season. But as far as the coaching staff goes, I think they got the right head coach. I think they're trying to, make sure they got the right assistants and the right developmental coaches and things like that. So I want to say one of the developmental coaches who was assigned to Jackson Hayes, I think he actually was let go this offseason too. So they're making moves, and it might not be sexy. People want, these big names and things like that, but they're doing what they can.
Okay. That makes sense. Oh, you had anything you wanted to ask?
So, and it's not so much about the coaching staff. I wonder, is there a rift, or, what's that relationship like between the GM, front office, and that coaching staff to make those decisions? Because what it sounds like, coaching staff, Willie Green, can be thinking about the team in a different direction or making some changes. Front office made a huge investment financially in the 2 players that you're talking about, and BI and Zion. How does that get worked out? How does that affect the culture or affect the locker room? Got rid of Teresa Witherspoon as well.
Yeah.
Is this going to impact them negatively, positively, as Willie Green tries to solidify himself as the man on campus in New Orleans?
I mean, I wish I could be a fly on the wall to kind of figure out, what that dynamic is like. I think it says a lot that the executive vice president of basketball, David Griffin, which a lot of people think David Griffin's the general manager. He's not, but obviously he has a lot of say in everything that's going on. David Griffin called Zion in to have a meeting with him the day that Teresa Witherspoon was let go.
Okay.
And the only reason we found out that he was meeting with him was because the Saints reporter saw Zion and was like, "Hey, yo, Zion's here meeting with DG." So we're like, what's going on? And maybe not even 10, 20 minutes later, the news broke about Teresa Witherspoon. So I think it says a lot that David Griffin tried to, make sure that a lot of communication was open and let him know, like, look, we know this is your girl, but this is what we got to do. Mm-hmm. Hope you're okay with it, but it's happening. It's in motion, So, I mean, it's unfortunate because I know she passed up some opportunities to stay here because she felt like her work wasn't done here with these guys.
That is my problem with it.
Yeah.
That's my issue. I mean, I know she's in the running for Chicago Sky, like, you know what I mean? WNBA still in season. We're about to go into playoffs and, W is about to go into playoffs and everything. So probably in the off season to be settled, but I'm hoping she lands as the coach of the Chicago Sky. I would love to see her back in the W. So
she's amazing. Her energy is just like so infectious. Like I haven't gotten a chance to like sit and talk with her or even like stand and talk with her for a few minutes, but I see her real quick, hey teaspoon, let me get a picture or whatever have you. She's like, of course. Like, she's just so down to earth and cool. I hated to see her go. And I love that she was in the organization, just like, representing, not a lot of women involved, a lot of Black women, especially on these coaching staffs. So she was great to have there. And I know she'll land on her feet for sure.
As we look at David Griffin is the EVP basketball operations, but your GM is,
Langdon, yeah.
Yeah. And, you could talk about the relationship between them and give it some comments on your owner as well. Like really curious to the flow of the front office, like similar to what Brandon asked, but how is the relationship you think between David and your GM and like what type of decisions does the GM make even? Does he have power, do you think? And then how do you feel about Gail Benson, how she's been doing the last few years? It seems like, like she's committed to, a winner. So you can go with that and then we'll have one more question, then we're done.
Okay. With Trajan Langdon, he likes to be behind the scenes. I saw him coming out of the tunnel. I was at a game in Memphis. And so we just brought up how David Griffin is always on camera. He's always the guy doing all the talking, and Trajan Langdon is behind the scenes. And he's like, I actually like it like that. So I'm sure, they have some sort of like collaborative effort going on. And David Griffin likes to be the guy, or maybe it's not that he likes it. Maybe he just doesn't mind it. So he doesn't mind being the guy that's on camera making the statements and things like that.
Right.
They also Swin Cash is in our front office too. So between the three of them, I think they've done a really good job so far. I think a lot of what they've tried to put together, I can see the vision, but everything is just injuries are just messing that up. I don't really know what kind of like decisions the general manager is supposed to be making versus like what the vice president of basketball operations is going to be doing. But I feel like between David Griffin, Swin Cash, and Trajan Langdon, there's like
you feel like there's synergy there, basically.
A three-headed monster. Like they're all one, but one of them just happens to be like the mouthpiece for all of that. And then with Gail Benson, I'm kind of leaning towards. I'm extremely happy that she is the team's governor. I guess you could call it these days.
I keep using owner, but governor.
Old habits die hard, right? So when the Pelicans didn't have like an owner and the league owned the team, she, I guess, talked Tom Benson into getting the team. So there's just this like thing where everyone's just like, oh, well, Tom bought the team for Gail. And he's like, here you go, sweetie, here's the NBA team, right? So I'm thankful that they were able to get the team. They were able to keep them in New Orleans because there's always all this talk about, oh, they're going to move to Seattle, blah, 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 whatever. But with Gail, what I can really, really, really appreciate with her is not only is she, making an effort to keep the team in New Orleans, but also she has it set up to where when she passes, whoever buys the team they can't move them. Like that's part of the agreement. Like you buy this team, you keep this team here. So, and I don't know if there's anyone, locally who would want to end up buying it. I don't know who's rich enough to buy an NBA team because they probably are also going to buy the Saints too. It's probably just going to be like Phoenix, where you get the WNBA and the NBA. It'll be the NBA and the NFL. So, I can appreciate her for those things, but after a certain point, it kind of feels like she's not willing to do whatever it takes.
Right.
Like, we've never paid the tax. It's like, look, how far are you willing to take this? Are you just satisfied just having a team and bringing in a little bit of money, or are you willing to like really invest? And there are things that she has done. I want to say as soon as David Griffin came in, she got them to, like remodel the practice facility. And then they brought in Aaron Nelson, and Aaron Nelson was David Griffin's guy. But now Aaron Nelson is like not running the training team or anything anymore. I don't really know what's going on with that, but his position is definitely going to be different this coming season, because there's been a lot of friction there between him and, Zion and Brandon Ingram and all the hoops they've had to jump through to return to play.
Right.
So it seems like there was some friction there. Everybody else seemed to be living in harmony, but there specifically, there's something weird going on there.
That's something like there's something there, like
yeah. Well, because you see these reports, so and so was hurt. He'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks pass by. He'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So it's like, what benchmarks are you having these guys have to meet in order to return to play? Like Brandon Ingram was out with that hurt toe for a long time. But some of that with a toe injury like that, which I don't know if it was ever like fully. I've heard so many different things. I don't even know if it's like officially turf toe that he had. But if you got something going on with your foot and you can't explode off your foot, then you just can't play. So, It is what it is, So,
and the fasciitis, the turf toe, all of that. Like, you ain't doing that. Yeah.
You ain't doing none of that.
That's right.
Yeah. So, hopefully, moving forward with the whatever they got new going on with the training staff, hopefully there won't be so much with that. Like, ask the guy, like, hey, can you go? And if he say yeah, he can go, then let him go. Because previously it just seemed like, nah, I know you want to play, but we're not going to do that. We'd rather play safe than sorry. And so now you got guys missing 50 games. For what, man?
So hopefully this season, that is, like you guys have a healthy season. It seems like you're happy with the coaching. Ownership is moving in the right direction in terms of decision making. They just haven't. But now with that new CBA, it's going to be harder for people to spend like that. Like it really, which is why it was done, because you had people spending like the Warriors, and then you had people looking at other teams like, you're not willing to go over the tax. Now it's a temp penalty to go over the tax. Like it's a hell of a penalty. So we'll see that more, like spread out. I mean, I know Phoenix is going for it, but you're not going to see many teams going for it in that magnitude. So as we close, go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
My hot take. I think the longevity of the Pelicans in New Orleans is contingent upon what happens with Zion.
Oh, that's a real take.
I believe
that's not an unusual thing to say, but Gail Benson said.
I get it. This is where I'm headed. Once you sell the team, the loopholes that exist to be able to move a team are very, like, those holes are huge.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have Zion. You have to rethink your roster lineup. The new CBA limits you from being able to get guys. They have one of the worst arenas in the NBA in terms of one of the worst. They don't have a path to get funding to build a new stadium. Mm-hmm. And they've been run in such a way that has only team in NBA that has been owned by the NBA, I believe. And the fight with the family that thing is hanging over everybody's head.
Mm-hmm.
I could see just all of those things not one of those things by themselves, but all of those things happening at the same time lends itself to someone that's willing to come in and say, I'm ready to take over this and get them out of there.
Well, I can say I hope not. I hope it doesn't.
No, I definitely hear you. And you guys out there have a lot of patience. I also feel, because Zion's been injured or something's been going on every season. So,
and they're like right for a long, like financially, like regardless, like trading or anything, they'll have a lot of dead cap if they do move him, right?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't dig too deep into the cap stuff.
Okay.
I don't think he's going anywhere. It will have to be, I don't think Zion is I don't think he's going anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. Maybe they do make that move and he'll eventually end up in New York where he want to play. So
that's that's what Stephen A said, but he wants him to play for his team,
Right.
And have a guy for the whole season, man. If you don't have this guy this season, man, that's gonna be.
Yeah. And I mean, look at how things have played out with him year after year. Like his first year, he played in summer league when maybe he shouldn't have, and he had a knee issue, and so he had some sort of surgery with that. So you played in summer league, and you even played in preseason, and then opening night, you're out. So he didn't play until December or January. So now it's January 2020. It's February 2020. He's playing, and then COVID happens, and so now the league shut down for a few months. Yeah. Then they picked back up in June or July. Yep. Now you're out of shape because you haven't been playing actual basketball in several months. Yeah. So that season ends. The team sucked. Whatever. The next season comes around. Zion plays 60 games that season. Brandon Ingram played 60 games that season. It was a 72-game season. They played the majority of the season. They played under Stan Van Gundy. Everybody hated the guy. Like that team hated Stan Van Gundy. Josh Hart didn't want to play basketball no more. That's how upset.
And that says a lot because Josh Hart is, he's one of my favorite. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I swear I feel like I watch games to see Josh Hart. Like I like Josh Hart. He's one of my favorite role players in this game. To be honest with you, I think he has a punch off the bench that like no other. Like he could be a 6th man of the year. Easily, like multi. Sorry.
No, you're good. I love Josh too, and I really missed him. What were you saying?
So what you're saying is their most productive season with Zion is with the guy they hated at head coach. Like,
but so let's look at all the different reasons why that season was so successful. They first of all, they never got to practice though. Like they were playing games literally every other day because the season started later. And so it's like you're on, boom, boom, boom. And that was the most successful season. And I mean, obviously, I wasn't there. I don't know what was going on with Stan Van Gundy, but they're definitely it didn't work out. He was gone after a year. And so it seems like if your main guys ain't really feeling it, he got to go. But it sucks. And I always bring this up. It's like Zion and Brandon Ingram played 60 games. In a season where most of the lower bowl, for the first 10, 15 rows, there's no fans. The arena is so empty because people got to sit in pods and they got to be spaced out. So, and that was a season where he had historic numbers on this efficiency that he was getting these buckets on. And it's hardly anybody really, really got to experience it because you couldn't even be in the arena. And on TV, it's not the same. You got to be in there, So, and then the next season, we got Willie Green. Zion's hurt. David Griffin says he should be ready for the regular season. Okay, but when? Because opening night comes, he doesn't play. A month passes, he doesn't play. Months and months and months. He missed the entire season. Why? I forgot. What even happened? He had the Lisa Frank injury. He broke something in his foot. Or he had some fracture. And then the next season, all right, boom, opening night. Who we playing? We playing the Brooklyn Nets. And boy, we whooped them. I watched that game all the time because we had Brandon Ingram.
You watch it all the time.
Because I just want to go back to a time where I felt something good. And that night on October 19th.
I can't do that, right? I can't do that we had so much turmoil with my team that, I mean,
so much.
I guess this is the season the Nets supposed to be back to normalcy, they say, but we shall see what that means. I mean, we have no idea what that means anymore.
Yeah. So that was an amazing night. And then 2 nights later we played Charlotte. We beat them. So we 2-0. We feeling good. 3rd game of the season. Guess what happens? Zion goes up for a one-handed dunk. Jordan Clarkson tries to go block it. Zion spins backward, falls on his hip. Now he's out for 3 or 4 games. 2 quarters later, Brandon Ingram gets knocked in the head by Najee Marshall. He got a concussion. He's out for a few games. 2.5 games into the season, your best 2 players is hurt now. So every year is something stupid happening.
Yeah.
Can we just be healthy? That's it.
Yeah. As you look at the history of the Pelicans franchise, what is your favorite season? What is your favorite team? What year is your favorite team of the Pelicans? I'll rewind.
Now, my favorite season was the 2017-2018 season. That's the season where we ended up being a 6th seed and we faced Portland in the first round. Then we ended up sweeping them. I think most fans probably would say probably around like 2007, 2008, when they had Chris Paul and Ingram in the playoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The reason that I
That's
don't
my
choose that is
favorite,
because, yeah, which makes sense. I was kind of like, I was like on an NBA hiatus of sorts. Like I wasn't really watching the team. I was living in Houston at the time because I was still in Houston from being out there after Hurricane Katrina. So like when I stopped playing basketball, I stopped watching like all sports. So I didn't watch the Hornets for like a few years. So once I moved back, it was kind of just like, it was kind of tradition to go to the home opener. But other than that, I wasn't really going too much. And so I've only been really, really, really back into it, maybe since like 2015 or so. So last 7-8 years. So then my favorite team that I've been like actually like watching the whole way would be that 2017-2018 team. And that was the year we lost Boogie with the Achilles injury. Then we got Nikola Mirotic, got into the playoffs. The rest with that is history. So that was a really, really a fun time, aside from the injury, of course. But bad luck with the injuries. We got PTSD.
I mean, that's a good year to pick. And actually, I'm gonna throw. This is the last one for sure. I can't believe I didn't ask this. What is going to be the legacy of Anthony Davis after he retires? Will he get his jersey retired, or is like get the heck out of here? You're not getting no jersey retirement here. Like, what is what do you think about that? Because I'm just curious about Anthony Davis's legacy.
Yeah,
top 75 player. What are your thoughts?
I feel like it really depends on what the ownership thinks. Do they care what the fans think about that, right? Because I kind of feel like the fans are 50-50. Like there's a lot of people who will be like, look, Anthony Davis is the best player y'all ever had.
With time heals wounds. Sometimes time does heal wounds.
Yeah. There's some people who would say, yeah, he's the best player y'all ever had. Why wouldn't you retire his jersey? And other people are like, well, look at the way he left. He never said thank you. That's an ongoing joke about all these different people did all these things before Anthony Davis could say thank you to New Orleans. And guys, they request trades. It's a thing that happens, but it's just the way it happened and the way he avoided the media. And then Drew Holiday and Alvin Gentry were left to like answer questions for him, and they didn't even know what to say. And then he wore the "That's All Folks" shirt the night of the last game, and said that, I didn't even really pay no attention. Somebody laid this shirt out for me to put on. You're a grown man, bro. Like at this point, you're pushing 30, and you talk about you ain't pick that shirt out. It's just like ain't no need to be petty, bro. So
take accountability.
Yeah. Drew Holiday requested out. You wouldn't even really know it. He did it the right way. That he's like the most loved former Pelican, because a lot of people don't even mess with Chris Paul like that, but some other people do, and they're like, he's one of the best players you ever had. Why wouldn't you? So I don't know what they're gonna do with the Anthony Davis thing. I mean,
that's a good one. That's a conundrum. We'll see.
I think he does get retired. I don't think he should.
You think he does, but he's okay.
I can the culture of the NBA, like standing stuff out like popcorn now, and it's like what? Like
Charlotte getting ready to honor
the Nets better not do nothing for James Harden. Like
it's fair.
And Houston to honor him to the hilt, but not not the Nets. But I thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. We'll have to bring you. You're a Pelicans fan? So we'll bring you back to talk some Pelicans during the season for sure.
Hopefully it's good news.
And hopefully it's a great season for you guys. But thank you for being here. And the game has started at 0-0. So have a good night, everyone.